All right, hello everybody. Welcome to our next lesson here as we start to come to the conclusion of the Renaissance, Reformation, and Revolution unit. Okay, now our objectives and standards to explain the causes of religious persecution and to analyze how different religious groups were treated or persecuted. And take a look here at the standards if you would, please. And our desired result. Why were groups of people persecuted because of religious views? So there's going to be an increased tension during the Reformation. As we've kind of talked about, there's some, what they call the religious wars between Catholics and Protestants. But persecution will be widespread during this heightened time of religious fever. Catholics and Protestants both had intolerance towards each other, as you saw with the Inquisition and other things like that. And many people were actually executed as well during the Inquisition for heresy. So the hunt for witches. Religious fever of the time also led to a wave of witch hunting. So tens of thousands of women and men died as victims of witch hunts between 1450 and 1750. So we're talking about a time from 300 years that people were persecuted for being witches or warlocks if they were men. And unfortunately, most of these victims tended to be women. Now, scholars looking at this time period believe that the cause of witch hunts was people's beliefs in magic and spirits at this time. We haven't gotten to the scientific revolution yet, so many people are still questioning why things happen in the world and things like that, and are very religious. So when we get to the scientific revolution, things will begin to be more closely analyzed. And I'm not saying that, religiously or not, but we'll see in the scientific revolution how things begin to change and thinking begins to change. But people are going to see a close link between magic and things like that and heresy. They believed that witches were anti-Christian or worshiping the devil. So troubling times. So during periods of worry or concern in history, people tend to look for scapegoats or people to blame for their problems. So those who were typically accused of witchcraft were typically social outcasts, such as beggars, poor widows, midwives. Midwives were women who helped pregnant women give birth, and if the child died or had something wrong with it, a lot of the times people would typically blame the midwife and blame her for the child's death. Or also herbalists. Herbalists are people who would use, natural ingredients or things found in the wild to make medicine or things like that. So people were convinced that, witchcraft was on the rise during this period. I believe this picture here might be from the Salem witch trials. You might know something of the Salem witch trials in the colonial world. So again, that falls into this time period as well. So centers of religious conflicts, such as Germany, Switzerland, and France, saw the most victims of witch hunts, and eventually the end of the religious wars between the Catholics and the Protestants will also bring an end to witch hunts. But Jewish persecution. For Europe's Jewish population, the Reformation brought pretty hard times. In Italy, Jewish people had experienced wealth and prosperity during the Renaissance. However, the pressure on those who were Jewish to convert to Christianity was pretty harsh. Eventually, Jewish people in Venice, Italy, will have to live in the ghetto or a separate quarter of the city. Now, Martin Luther hoped that Jewish people would convert to his teachings and maybe ways of Protestant views, but when they did not, he called for them to be expelled from Christian lands and also for synagogues, which are the Jewish places of worship, to be burned. Restrictions on those who were Jewish also increased. For example, princes in Germany ordered the expulsion or the kind of kicking out of Jewish people from their lands. Jewish people also in Germany were forced to live in ghettos or wear yellow stars when they traveled outside the segregated areas. And also Jewish activities were restricted by Pope Paul IV. His picture's right there for you in the 1550s. Now, those who were Jewish will begin to migrate to other countries in Europe, such as Poland, after 1850, and also the Ottoman Empire. All right, so our closure. So again, think about why were groups of people persecuted because of their religious views. Think about, concerns about magic and heresy and witchcraft and the witch hunts that are going on. Also think about how the Jewish were persecuted for their views and how they were treated during this time period. All right, I hope you have a great rest of your day or night. Please try your best on the questions that follow, and remember to include the desired result and the closure in your weekly summary. And let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Talk to you soon.